Hi, welcome to this week's video in which I'll be sharing with you a drawing of yellow titmouse using colored pencils and mineral spirits. There is the drawing and the reference photo, which came from Wildlife Reference Photos, and the completed drawing once again.
Hello, I'm Joan Manson, and today I'm going to be doing a color pencil drawing of this little blue and yellow bird, and standing on a fern-covered branch. I am going to be, the reference photo came from Wildlife Reference Photos. I'm using Stonehenge Aqua hot press paper. It is a block, so you have a little spot in the back where you can separate it and bring it up. It's watercolor paper. The block is there so that your paper won't warp, but I'm using colored pencils with a little mineral spirit, so I'm not expecting any warping. This paper is 7 by 10. I've already taken the page from the block. I've drawn my image freehand. I know that it's difficult to see a light drawing, but there it is. Usually when I draw freehand, I make the image much larger. I managed to stay pretty close to the right size this time, which is progress for me. Generally, when I'm trying to stay on target with the size, I trace. But I do prefer to draw freehand, and I did this with an HB pencil. I am using Caran D'ache Luminous colored pencils. And here are all my pictures. I've got white and black. I have a grass green, phthalo blue, light cobalt blue. I have a gray, a raw umber, lemon yellow, and spring green. I'm going to start with the yellow and the grass green, and work on the belly first. I'll be moving back and forth, but I want to work on that first. I also have Mineral Spirits odorless thinner. It comes from U.S. Art Supply. Just a little bit. You don't really need a lot. And I have 2 Taklon brushes, the Filbert, which is probably my favorite shape brush, and a straight edge brush. I also have an electric eraser in the event I need to remove pencil and get to a white surface. And I also have a ceramic X-Acto blade for pulling away colored pencil from the surface to reveal the white of the paper. I don't do that a lot, but I do. And then I also have, which is my first over here, an embossing tool. I use it for putting lines on the paper so that I can color over it with another color, and you can see the white feather lines. You can do it with other things as well, with other colors as well, but and for other color papers as well. But it works very well with the watercolor paper because it's 140 GSM and it's nice and thick. It's something you can do. I'm going to do that before I get started with any of the pencils. I'm going to do that And I'm doing a crisscross. The feathers in the head are short and white and sort of really free. And I'm just doing crisscross. Because these feathers don't go in just one direction. I'm going to take one of my erasers here now and lighten the line. Alright. And I'm going to use the gray first, since I started working on the white of the bird, so that you can see this better. The same here. Okay. And I'm going to lift most of that with this black eraser from Factus. It's a color pencil eraser. Now, if I were in a few layers, I wouldn't be bothering. I'd use the electric eraser. But I want to be able to bring a white pencil over this as well. And then I'm going to bring in the black so you can see there's a band of black feathers around the eye. It's got a little burglar mask. And let's come down. And if you're looking on a larger screen, you should be able to see the lines that I've created. I lost my white pencil. I'm going to take a touch of the white right here. Now that you can see it, then I'll bring up the black. There we go. And with the eyeball, I'm pretty much embossing. There we go. And making little curly strokes with the pencil over this line, making it a little darker, and the little lines from the white feathers that overlap it more prominent. Okay. Those tiny details that really do make a difference. Okay. I don't need the embossing tool anymore. Let's put that to the side. I'm doing little circles right now. I know I said I was going to start with the yellow, but doing the head first just makes more sense.
I'm moving back and forth between time lapse and real time. And here we're in time lapse as I apply only colored pencils, building up the colors from light to dark, and then highlighting with white pencil. I know I said I was going to start with the belly, but I decided working with the head, as I mentioned earlier, made more sense. The titmouse has some really interesting and pretty markings. That black marking that shows there on the side actually goes down the center of the face. It's not a shadow, it is the actual black marking. And it's got a tiny beak. And a little bit more white on top of the gray that was there. And I'm brushing in some of the mineral spirits, blending in the pencil, painting it actually. And I'm going to bring back the embossing tool and add a few more areas where I would like the appearance of feathers to be. And so highlighting by the white of the paper. And working on the wings with the blue. Starting light, and I will be building up more and more. And I'm creating contrast and shadow as I go. And I'm using my tack-on brush to blend in the colorant pencil on the wings, build it up some, and then I can come back again and build up more with the pencil. And the idea with the mineral spirits is to get rid of any indication of white that you don't want to be there under the pencil, so it doesn't have that grainy look that normally occurs with colored pencils. You can achieve this by burnishing, that is rubbing the pencil more deeply into the paper, but using the mineral spirits is a little bit easier, and you can build up a bit more. Once you burnish, you cannot build up, and you can't apply anything else except possibly paint. And I brought back the tack on brush again with the mineral spirits, blending that wing in. Notice I am bringing green in there. It's funny when you first look, or when I first looked at the bird, I didn't see green. Looking at the photograph, even though it's obvious, what I saw was yellow and blue. And now I'm bringing back the brush again to do some more blending with the mineral spirits. And I'm still building up with the pencils. Remember, when you're working with colored pencils, well, you probably know it already, you start light and build up. And here I'm overlaying with a light green on top of my yellow because I want it to be a real yellow green. I want the graininess to show touches of that yellow as well as the yellow green. I don't want it to be a solid color. And there you can see where I've embossed and brought up the white. And now I'm bringing in a band of black along that white band of white feathers. And I'm using the black to create shadow and contrast as well as the darker colors. I'm going to use the mineral spirits to blend that black down into the tail feather to create shadow. And I'm bringing the white pencil in to highlight. And notice it doesn't come out white, it's coming out pale blue. This is how I'm creating the illusion that there is a layering of feathers in the wing and in the tail. That's what art is, after all. It's just an illusion. It's a beautiful illusion. And I'm bringing in the gray, working on the shadowed areas and edges of the belly feathers. And the belly is yellow, but there's a lot of shadow cast. So if I'd just done it all in yellow, it simply would have laid flat. In order for there to be contrast and volume, most importantly volume, shadow has to be included and light has to be included. Now I'm using the Taklon blending brush. I am blending in all the coloring pencils. Working on the legs with a gray pencil. And painting in over the Taklon brush. And bringing back pencil again, some green and some yellow. Laying down those little dashes as if they were feathers, trying to follow along with the direction of the feathers all the time. And I'm bringing in white for a little bit of highlight, but I don't happen to think that white is good enough. So in a little bit, I'm going to be adding white ink. Here we go. And at this stage, it's really going back and forth, blending and adding pencil and blending and adding pencil and creating the notion of texture and contrast. And whether you're going for something that's super realistic or impressionistic or anywhere in between, you want a sense of texture. And you want the sense of contrast, of light and shadow that ultimately creates volume. Here we go. And just a few more touches with the white. That's the Derwent Chinese white pencil, and it too isn't quite strong enough. So I'm using the Winsor Newton in white ink and a very fine brush to just paint in highlighted white tiny feathers in various areas. And then highlighting the white bands on the bird's tail feathers and wing feathers. And highlights on the claws. And on the beak. It's always handy. You can also use a white gouache if you have that instead of an ink. Okay, so off camera after this, I created the branch and the ferns, and my painting is now complete. I thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and I'd appreciate a subscribe if you're interested in seeing more of my work. Thank you once again for joining me.